Hello, my name is Jen Johnson. My pronouns are she and hers, and I'm the Director of Orientation, Transition, and Retention. Welcome to today's orientation webinar. At the Orientation Office, we prepare new students and their families for the upcoming transition to AU through a coordination of intentional programming. We strive to help every new student connect, belong, and grow within our community. We welcome members of our community to bring their full self to AU. We value human dignity and commit to being empathetic, inclusive, just, and respectful. Our goal is to welcome new Eagles to our community where individuals of all identities and experiences are understood, appreciated, and fully included. In the chat box is a link for live closed captioning. We will be recording the session and posting it to our YouTube channel with captions 24 to 48 hours after the session concludes. You may use the question box feature to ask presenters questions that will be answered during the Q&A and will be recorded for follow-up answers as needed. I'm now going to turn things over to the first video from your presenters.
Hi, my name is Shannon Smith, and I'm the Assistant Director for Student Success and Transition here within the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm so excited to have you all here. With us this afternoon, and I'd like to allow some of our amazing staff, many of which you saw in the video, to introduce themselves. Consuelo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Consuelo Grier. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm the Director of Multicultural Student Support, one of the co-directors in the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. We know there may have been a few sound issues with the video. Hopefully you all were able to see it okay, even if there were some sound issues, but we should be good for the rest of the presentation. I am going to pass things on to my colleague, Anna.
Hi, y'all. My name is Anna Morrison. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the coordinator for LGBTQ student support and diversity programs. I'm so happy to be here with y'all today. I'm going to pass it on to Michelle. Oh, Michelle, I don't think we can hear you.
Well, it seems like Michelle is having a little bit of difficulty with sound. Friends, welcome to AU and the virtual world that we all are living in right now, where technology is both our friend and our foe. So Michelle Strange, who you can't hear, but who hopefully will get the sound working, is our coordinator for dialogue and diversity, and all things extraordinarily training and dialogue. Who rounds out this team. My name is Robin Adams. Michelle uses she and her pronouns. I also use she and her pronouns as well. I am the Director for Educational Programs and Training. I would like to welcome you all to our session, and even a bigger welcome to American University. We are so excited that you are the newest members of our community, and we are excited to get to know you over time. So in this session, we'll talk a little bit about CDI and the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. We're affectionately called CDI. We'll be talking a little bit about what the center does, why we exist, and then overall, what are some of our programming. You'll also get to meet some of our students in this session, which is probably the most interesting part of our session, as well as learn a little bit more about what's next past this particular session with us. We'll also be doing a session tomorrow, and we hope that most of you who are on this webinar will also join us for our webinar tomorrow as well. So a couple of things about the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. First and foremost, why do we exist at American University? I think it's no secret that American University is a predominantly white institution, has been so historically, and that as a result of that, which is neither good or bad, it's just what it is, that the university, its founders, all members of this community a long time ago realized the need for centers like ours to really provide support, guidance around issues of diversity, inclusion, and equity. So the center really exists to ensure, one, is that the university is living out its commitment around equity and justice and inclusion, and that we are here to provide a deeper level of support to members of our campus community who are not represented in the dominant group. And so you'll see as we talk about our programming, how we support our LGBTQ community, our multicultural community, our first generation community, as well as women as a whole, and with a strong focus around making sure that inclusion is a part of everything that we do at this institution. So how do we do all of that? And that's a lot. We are living in a world where race and issues around justice and equity are on the forefront of most of our minds today. We are operating at this point in a nation that has been in a tremendous amount of unrest around issues, particularly around issues of race and issues of equity. And so the center has had long roots around this kind of work and ensuring that the university really focuses in on our campus community and making sure that we are committed to equity and inclusion, especially through our education, our outreach, and our advocacy. You'll see on the screen that the center's work is broken up into these buckets here. And so around education, we do lots of workshops, we do lots of training, educational programs, and you'll hear a little bit more about some of those as we continue through this presentation. We have a robust dialogue and a series of diversity programs also in our educational arm of the center. Outreach, much of our outreach work is really focused around student support, community building. The center really, and hopefully you got a glimpse of it through the video earlier, where it really is home for many of our students, regardless of where they come from in the world, in the nation, regardless of identity, regardless of where they sit in their understanding and their development, the center is home for our students, staff, and faculty. And so and home for us simply means a place where you know you can come, where you can really engage with community members, this team as a whole, and the university and the university's values around inclusion and equity are really represented both in programming and in community. We advise students, staff, and faculty, as well as we provide co-sponsorships. We sponsor many programs, sometimes independently as a center, a lot of times in conjunction with other campus partners. And then finally, it's important for the center and the university as a whole to make sure that our policies are reflective of our campus community and our values around equity. And so we spend a lot of time working with our counterparts, as well as our campus partners and other staff and faculty and students around, and our alums, as well as our parents and our campus community as a whole, around making sure that those policies are aligned and they really reflect our values. We spend a lot of time working with our Inclusive Excellence Plan, as well as doing lots of education and outreach as part of that advocacy bucket. So we'll tell you a little bit about our programs as a whole, and to do so, I welcome my colleague, Anna.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Robin, for that overview. So now I'm going to be going into exactly what do we do? How do we put that in practice in some ways how y'all can get involved with our programming? So first, we're going to talk about intergroup dialogue. So intergroup dialogue is truly one of the largest programs that we have in CDI, lovingly known as CDI, the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. Intergroup dialogue is a 7-week program. It's 2 hours each week, student-led, for students by students truly, and it allows folks to engage on a specific topic and really engage across difference. And CDI knows that especially these days, finding the time to engage across difference, to really dive deep on a specific topic, not for the point of being right or being wrong, but really to gain a deeper understanding of where our beliefs come from, and to really engage with other students. So we have a bunch of great topics coming up for the fall, so we highly encourage, especially first-year students, to get involved with intergroup dialogue. Registration opens on the first day of classes, so that'll be on our social media and in our newsletter. Next, we have lots of great LGBTQ focused programming. So you can see there we have our trans and non-binary welcome back mixer in the beginning of September for folks. In the past, we've done events for LGBTQ students of color, for LGBTQ History Month in October, plenty of movie nights, and just ways to engage online together and have some fun, like online escape rooms and game nights. So lots of events to look forward to as well in the fall and in the spring. Our first gen community is another huge community that we support in CDI. So we are so proud to be a first generation forward community, which really means that we have put a lot of effort into cultivating community with our first gen folks on campus. So we are so proud that about 10% of our student population identifies as the first in their family to go to college. And some of the programming that we do around that is we had a first gen barbecue. We'll be having our on September 1st. You can see here in the middle, our first gen webinar, which really gives students the opportunity to connect within the community and also ask questions, get connected around campus. Additionally, last year we created our first gen yearbook, which has dozens of faculty and staff members across AU who also identify as first generation college students when they went to college, and really gives our students the opportunity to connect with mentors and other folks who have walked this path before them. Last but certainly not least, our multicultural student support is a huge piece of what we do in CDI. We'll be having our annual Student of Color Welcome Back Mixer on the first day of classes, as we always do, in the evening. So stop on by. Again, there'll be the links to that in our social media and also in our newsletter. We'd love to hear about how your first day of classes went, debrief about your day, and have some fun celebrating this community together. In addition, we do plenty of campus-wide programs, educational and also just for fun, and doing cross-cultural educational programs. This past semester, we had our Black Women's Retreat. Every semester, we have Cutting Edge Conversations, which is an opportunity for men of color to get their hair cut and to chat about really important issues of masculinity and about identity. So congratulations on your acceptance, and we're so happy, and we can't wait to engage with you. Even though we're going to be digital this semester, we are still going to bring our CDI fun and really connect this community, and it gives us the opportunity to do that in new ways. We really look forward to doing that with y'all.
Thank you, Anna. And so I think Anna just mentioned that much of our programming will be digital this year. One of the important aspects that we recognize that students who are on campus and who might be off campus, the importance of really engaging around these important issues, as well as really finding ways to really express their voice and be engaged around our critical conversations around race. And so at race, equity, gender, all of the things that CDI sees as a hallmark of an AU education. And so know that even in the virtual experience with CDI, it is engaging, it'll be fun, it'll allow us to really be in line with our values, as well as to really be safe as it relates to COVID-19. And so know that we will be with you every step of the way in your learning, and we'll do that in a safe way that really allows our students to really engage.
Right. Hopefully my sound is working now and you can hear me, and I'm very excited to bring the next section of our presentation to you, which is our student panelists. Please, student panelists, come forward virtually to the stage. Hello, I'm very excited to see all of you, and also excited that my sound is now working. So this part is where you'll get to hear from some amazing students to talk about their experiences. Hello, and I want to first ask the panelists to introduce themselves, and I have a few questions for them just to get y'all warmed up. But please, if you have questions for the panelists, things that you want to know about their experience, about AU, about diversity inclusion issues at AU, whatever it is, please put them in the questions section on the webinar, and this is where we get to hear from you on the things that you want to know about. So please use that questions function. Panelists, please introduce yourselves. Let's say your name, your pronouns, and your campus affiliations. You're involved in so many great things, so let the people know the places that you're involved in on campus. And then also knowing that we're virtual, there's a lot of things that are less fortunate about being online, but there's a handful of things that are pretty cool. So if there's one thing you're excited about around this newfound virtual world, please share that with us.
So, hey everybody, my name is Joshua Dantzler. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I am a rising fourth year student at American University studying political science, and I am involved in campus. I'm a resident assistant. I'm a part of the leadership program, working CDI, and a part of fraternity and sorority life. And I am excited about, getting the opportunity to take classes from the comfort of some of the classes from the comfort of my residence hall.
Hi, my name is Jenny. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I'm also a rising fourth year. My major is international studies. And some of my campus affiliations, I'm currently one of the STEP assistants, which is a summer program that we have for AU students. And I'm also part of AU LULAC, which is one of the Latinx orgs at AU. And I think one of the things I'm, thinking positively about for a virtual school year is one, kind of just getting better at using technology. I think that's obviously really helpful. And two, just being able to connect with people that I wouldn't usually connect with, just because virtual spaces are much different than meeting in person.
Hi everyone, I'm Esther Genti. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a rising third year at AU, and just like Jenny, I'm one of the STEP assistants this year. And I'm also a part of the pre-law professional fraternity at AU. one of the things I'm really excited about is because of this virtual space, I'm going to be have off-campus housing this year, and I'm really excited to like have the freedom that comes with being off campus.
Hi, everybody. I'm Danya. My pronouns are she and hers. I am going to be a rising senior this year, which is really hard to believe. I study international studies and economics. On campus, I'm affiliated with CDI as a dialogue facilitator. I'm also part of the AU South Asian Student Association and the Bhangra team. Something I'm excited about for this virtual space is kind of going back to the things that truly bring me joy. I've learned a lot of cooking, and I'm relearning my joy of French. So that's some of the things I'm excited about.
Hi there, my name's Max. I use they, them pronouns. I am a rising junior and I study political science. So my campus affiliations are that I am the executive director of AU Pride. And what I'm excited about this virtual world is I get to take classes on my couch. That's ideal.
Thank you, panelists. So this is the time where I'm going to ask a few questions. And again, I want to plug for everybody listening. If you have questions for the panelists, please drop them in the questions tab of the webinar, and we'll get to some of your questions. So first, I want to acknowledge y'all are some of our favorite students, so we really appreciate you. So can you please share with the people, how did you find CDI, and how has CDI been a resource for you?
Hi, everyone. So I found CDI through the STEP program. I was in STEP 2018. So we were just kind of anchored into CDI when we got here. And I kind of just never left because CDI has this ability to have their doors open and their ears open at all times. And it's really important to have a space. And like Consuelo, I believe, said that, no, it was Robin, said that CDI is a home for a lot of students, and I definitely felt that way for me, especially during my first year at AU. And during my second year at AU, I became a dialogue facilitator, which is just a great experience to have deep conversations in a space that isn't really academic. It's more like everyone is learning instead of like, it's not competitive in any way. So that's my experience with CDI.
So for me, I was introduced to CDI like when I was an incoming freshman. I was connected with them because I'm trans, so I needed help getting various things changed to reflect my actual name and pronouns and all that stuff. And CDI was remarkably helpful in just sorting all that out so I can focus on being a first year instead of dealing with all that other stuff. And since then, I've just participated in CDI through a lot of programming and doing some organizing as the executive director of AU Pride. And it's just been a really great resource to find community.
Thanks, y'all. So let's talk a little bit about AU more broadly. How's your experience been around diversity and community at AU?
So I like to think about my experience in regards to diversity and community at AU twofold, right? So one, it's getting involved in my community, right? So as a Black student, partaking in opportunities to engage with other Black students at AU. And so that's, you know, being a part of the NAACP at one point at my time at AU and different clubs and organizations and going to their events and partaking in the Black community's offerings. You know, there's so many opportunities and so many clubs. So just, you know, getting to meet those who look like me, people that look like me and share similar experiences. So community that wise and in that regard, but also community in, you know, going to CDI, as folks mentioned, and CDI having the opportunity to cultivate community amongst all types of people. So, you know, going to First Friday, something that will happen hopefully, you know, when we get to congregate again and go into different, you know, mixers that CDI offers. And so, you know, building community with people who look like me. And that was like the first thing. And as, you know, as a Black student at AU doing that, but then also expanding my reach and going to CDI to build community elsewise.
For me, it was really interesting because my community at home in my high school was predominantly very South Asian and people of color at the school. So going to AU was a very different experience for me, and it was a lot of getting used to. First semester of my freshman year, I was a little bit lost because I had a group of friends and we talked casually and we had similar enough interests, but it didn't really go much deeper beyond that. But my second semester of freshman year, I really pushed myself to kind of push myself out of my comfort zone and explore what I was really interested in. And I stumbled upon CDI through dialogue programming, and I also got more involved in student orgs like South Asian Student Association and other things that pushed me beyond my comfort zone. And that experience of pushing myself, but also being really frank with myself, gave me a lot of confidence in a whole other host of things that I do in my life, like in class and other places.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate you naming how it hasn't always been easy. And I think certainly dealing in this climate that we're in really speaks to that. So that actually brings me to my next question, which is about how have your experiences with CDI prepared you to navigate the nation's climate, dealing with issues around COVID or anti-Blackness, racism, transphobia, xenophobia? Like there's a host of things happening. How has CDI helped to prepare you to navigate some of those things?
So I think for me, one of the other affiliations I have with CDI is also being a dialogue facilitator. I got the chance to do that this past spring semester. And, I've always been more of an introvert, but somebody who just has so many ideas and opinions. And being a facilitator really helped me to feel more confident in, expressing those ideas or having conversations with people about topics that can be very sensitive, or that you may not feel super knowledgeable about. And I think given the current discussions of police brutality and anti-Blackness, it's definitely a time where, I see people who feel like, oh, I don't know enough, I can't really speak on this. And so having that experience of being a dialogue facilitator really helped me to just feel like, oh, I can have these conversations, I feel comfortable, being part of that, but also helping people that maybe don't feel as comfortable. And so I think that experience was important, especially in a time like now where having discussion and conversation is just very important to understand what is happening and what we can do moving forward.
I definitely agree with Jenny, like as that having that experience as a dialogue facilitator as well. I feel like it's really easy to, at this time, especially with all the anti-Blackness going on in the world, to feel alone and to feel like your voice doesn't matter as a Black person. But through my experiences with CDI and how open, especially open ears, and how people will listen to you and kind of force you to amplify your own voice, it reminds me that my voice does matter and it deserves to be heard, and I will keep speaking. And that is really difficult in these times when you feel like it's just not your time. But I think that is what yeah.
I agree, Esther. And yeah, our voices matter, all of our voices matter, and that's something that CDI definitely instills in us. And I think, personally thinking about what I've gotten from CDI in relation to like this movement right now that's going on is two things, right? Like one, that it's continuous and the work is continuous. So, like this summer it feels heavy and it's been a heavy summer, but this work is going to continue to go on. And because this work is continuous, the second thing I've learned is that the moments of rest are needed, and there's moments of joy. Joy can be found in resting, and if you don't rest, if you don't allow yourself to practice self-care, if you don't allow yourself to treat yourself, if you don't allow yourself to kind of take a moment to work on yourself, then you can't give yourself to the moment, and to be a part of the movement. And so I think I've learned that a lot from CDI, and that in our office we really we try to plug opportunities to practice self-care. We have a newsletter that goes out every Tuesday, and we have offerings in that newsletter about where you can put your energy, and where you can really try to make sure that you are plugging in, unplugging, and then taking action.
Thank you, panelists. I hear all of the virtual nods and I'm feeling all of the affirmations. So I really appreciate y'all sharing your time and expertise with the incoming class. So I really only have one last question for you. So again, I want to plug for everybody listening. If you have questions for the panelists, please put them into the questions box on the webinar and we'll get to your questions. So my last question is about advice. So it's two-pronged, so you can choose your own adventure with this question. One is, what have you learned about creating an inclusive community since your first year at AU, particularly given that AU is a predominantly white institution? The other part of that advice-oriented question is, what do you want to tell the incoming class about diversity and inclusion?
Yeah, so to answer that first question about creating an inclusive community, so my experience growing up, I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. So when I got to AU, I already kind of had an idea of what I was looking for in terms of a community. I wanted to find the other Latinx students so that I could have that sense of community that I never really had in my hometown. But I think I also allowed myself to stay open-minded in terms of what I got myself involved with. So I think that that's a really good thing to consider with AU, especially given that a lot of virtual things will be happening this semester, is to just be open-minded, but also have an idea of what exactly you want in a community. And I think that that kind of ties into the other piece of advice that I was considering, where, you know, as a predominantly white institution, things are not always going to go smoothly. Not everyone is going to understand what it means to really be inclusive. So I think it's important that we're educating ourselves on how to make spaces feel inclusive of everyone. And as we're learning to, you know, apply that, you know, challenge the spaces you're in if you're involved in student, or challenge, you know, what voices may be limited and, you know, who you're giving that space to. I think AU students have so much power, especially in those student orgs, to really create community as we want to see it. So, you know, obviously don't beat yourself up as you're learning things, because no one can be perfect at these things, but just, you know, letting yourself be educated, just always finding ways to be more inclusive. I think that that's kind of the simplest thing at the end of the day, and not being afraid to challenge that status quo of whatever org you choose to be involved in.
To answer the second part of that question, about just like advice about diversity inclusion, that being prepared to learn when you're coming into school, not from like the classes, and like obviously please learn your classes, but also learning from like the people you meet and all the activities you can participate in, because you get to meet such like a wide scope of people that you never get to encounter when you're like cloistered away in your little town, if you come from a little town. So you get to meet so many new people with so many different perspectives on life that you just get to learn so much. So just being prepared and we approach it with an open mind.
I can't thank you enough, panelists, for your insights, specifically given, like, you know, you've done this transition to AU, so I really appreciate it. Now I'm going to transition to questions from the audience, and the first one is directed to the panelist of color. So how do you feel supported as a student of color at AU, and how do you deal with students who may not understand your culture or make ignorant statements?
I can start on that question. The biggest piece of advice I have for that is finding the people who want to see you succeed. And I promise they are out there and they're at AU and they want to see you flourish and thrive. Finding Michelle, for example, at CDI and other faculty that I'm really close to has helped me become more confident, not only in what I say in class, and I'm not really afraid to challenge anyone in class if they say something ignorant. It's given me the confidence to do that, but also outside. Yeah, just find the people who want to see you succeed. They're there. It might be hard at first, but they're there, I promise.
I would chime in and I would say exactly that. I think, you know, it's good to have support in two ways, right? It's good to have peer support, And I rely on my friends that I met, in my first year. They're still my best friends going into my senior year. So rely, and friend groups change, but, rely on friends and peers. And then also know that, you have folks in offices, right? So, CDI folks, and you might have folks in advising, you might have folks in all types of campus type offices. So, even professors, you can connect with them as well. And then in terms about, dealing with ignorant comments and things like that, I think, something that came to my mind, and it's true, is that you have to learn how to protect your peace. So you can't overextend yourself. You came to school to get, your education. You came to school to build community, but sometimes you didn't come to school to be a teacher. Sometimes you didn't come to school to educate everybody. So you try what you can, you do what you can, and you try to have those crucial conversations, and you try to have those respectful dialogues and discussions. But at the end of the day, you realize that your piece is important, and what do you come to school to do? So, don't try to overextend yourself, and don't try to, reach everybody, because some folks are not reachable at this moment. And, you hope that they can get reachable through other avenues.
I hope y'all are writing this down, taking virtual notes. Thank you. So my next question, and probably my last one from the audience, is open to anyone to answer. So how have you seen and felt included in student organizations? And what have you seen organizations do to promote inclusion?
If I can jump in, I will just kind of talk about the organization I've been part of, which is AU LULAC, which stands for League of United Latin American Citizens. I've been part of that org since my first semester at AU, and I think what really got me involved was that while they exhibited obviously this community for Latinx students, they have always been really open to just anybody who wants to participate. And since I've been part of that org, we've always been, tried to be open-minded and cognizant of, those other identities, whether that's, anti-Blackness within Latinx community, Afro-Latinos, queer Latinx people. We really try to always be considerate of who else, has that label, but also, making sure that there's a space really for anybody at AU who wants to be there. So I think that's kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, like being part of AU LULAC has taught me so much about, wow, like, sometimes I see other orgs who maybe don't do those same things. And, I kind of wish that they would. But I think that's sort of like that learning curve of like, okay, I see what everyone else is doing. I see, the students who maybe don't feel like they're being included in these conversations. And I want to do better for people to feel like, they can be part of, whatever org or community they want to be part of. And so I think, being part of an org where I already see that work being done was really important to me when I got to AU. But, just have to plug AU LULAC. Obviously, there's always work that can be done, but just also seeing how different student orgs kind of partner with each other as well to make an even greater community at AU.
Thank you. Yes, plug your orgs. All right, I'm gonna add one more question because I love it, and it's a first gen roll call. So the last question is, who on this panel is first gen, and where can you find support for finding your way? I'm first gen. Raise your hand if you're first gen. All right. Where can you find support? Finding your way.
Yeah. What I learned when I got to AU, there's a lot of professors and like AU faculty that are first gen, and they'll literally tell you, like one of my first year professors, she had on her like outside of her office, I'm first gen, come talk to me. So I think that it's really easy when you're first gen to be very scared when you come to an institution where everybody has people, everyone seems to be more prepared than you are. But in reality, you're all here and you all got here on your merits. You are just as prepared as other people. And people who are first gen will make it known to you that they are, and they will, because they know how hard it is to be in this position. And so you will find people for sure.
Thank you. Shout out to all the first gen students listening and watching. We're here with you. Now, I'm going to give my panelists one last virtual round of applause. I really appreciate all of your insights. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to working with you, and hopefully the incoming class will get to see your face or feel your virtual spirit in these organizations and the part of CDI. So now I'm going to transition to Consuelo to wrap us up. Thanks, panelists.
Awesome. Thank you so much, panelists. And once again, congratulations to all of you who are now going to be part of the American University family. You will hear us say time and time again, once an Eagle, always an Eagle. So we cannot wait to meet you, whether it's virtually or in person, once we're all together again on campus. Really looking forward to it. I have just a couple minutes to give us a quick wrap up. There were some great questions coming in. Feel free to reach out to us. You can see on the screen there are multiple ways to stay connected to CDI. You can visit us online, american.edu /OCL/CDI. Please follow us. Follow us on our socials too. We're at AUCDI on pretty much everything. And that's where all of our latest events, our programs, opportunities, we post jobs, we post scholarship opportunities, we post self-care things. So please follow so that you can stay connected with us. A couple of things, really a huge thanks to our student panelists. They dropped some gems. I wrote down, if you don't give yourself a moment, you can't give of yourself to the moment. Joshua said that. I thought that was really profound. So, you know, listen to the words of advice that your peers shared, because they have really, truly shared gems with you. We know that there was some early sound issues with the video that we posted. We're really sad because that really shows the true character of who CDI is in terms of us hanging out, having a good time, being able to connect, getting to learn together. And as Max said on the during the student panelists, is that learning comes in a lot of forms, and that be prepared to learn inside and outside of the classroom. We're going to post the link to the video on the orientation page along with the recording from this session here today. And if you look in the chat section, we have also posted both the link for the video as well as the link to our first gen yearbook. We know that there were some questions about being first gen and finding your supportive community. And there's a lot of folks who are connected in there who have provided their contact information and are ready and willing to connect with you. Please be on the lookout. We have, as you heard, a number of student orgs, so we will try to support you all getting to know more opportunities at AU. We will post our calendar as well, so that there's a number of events so you all can get to know who your peers are and get to know others who are like-minded and would like to connect with you as part of the AU family. Let's see, be sure to be on the lookout as well for our dialogue programs, and that will be launching again at the beginning of the fall. And as you heard from many of our panelists today, they've been participating in some form or fashion with dialogue. It's a great entry point to get to meet new folks, learn some valuable skills, and continue to connect with CDI. Our time is running out here, but please, please, please feel free to reach out to us. If there were questions that were not answered today, you can also email us at cdi@american.edu. We look forward to hearing from all of you. Thanks so much. Bye.